Well, hello. I forgot to hit our little intro music there, and here we are. Welcome to the show. It's Ivy Nation Sports Talk. We're up and rolling. It is, what day is this? It's Tuesday. Glad to have you along for the ride. Today, Brian Higgins, as you saw in the title of our show, the Syracuse Insider is our guest today, and there's a lot. It's like, is it live or is it Memorex? Salty wants to know. Tommy Guns, is it pre-recorded? I bet the interview is pre-recorded. And Joe Allen wants to know. I'm kind of hoping for the interview to be pre-recorded so I can finish mowing. Joe, your wish is my command. It's pre-recorded interview. I'm not sure what difference it makes because it's not like when we have had guests on live. It's not like anyone actually asks questions. When the show is live, because I've literally asked for questions before. But turns out doing a show at 5:00 is hard to get guests on live. Is kind of the way that it's worked. So if someone wants to be a producer of the show and run down guests to ensure that we have them live, we'll do it. But I remember a couple of years ago, we had a guest on from NC State that kind of turned out to be a rather infamous interview on this show. Would doing it live have made the interview any better? I don't think so. Brian Higgins, though, our guest from ESPN Syracuse, has got a lot of good stuff to say. And I guess the irony of today is I pre-recorded an interview with Brian, and right after we finished that, Brian pre-recorded an interview with me. And so both of those are actually going to be playing live at the same time. While he's doing his show on ESPN Syracuse, he'll be playing my interview with him, and at the very same time, my interview with him. Basically, both will be on at the same time. I don't know. I just confused myself. Here's the upside, though. Vince D'Addario will be live for Rapid Fire when this interview is over. So you've got that going for you. So with no further ado, here is the fully pre-recorded interview with Brian Higgins. Well, as promised, Brian Higgins is with us from ESPN Syracuse and QSportsTalk.com. Did I say that right?
You got it all right. I'm in front of the TK99 sign here in our other studio. This is the flagship radio station for Syracuse. But yeah, we're one big happy family in this hallway here, Sean.
Yeah. Any other branding? That's right.
Exactly.
That's right. Well, Brian, the Notre Dame Syracuse game in November certainly got a lot more interesting last week when Steve Angeli announced that we knew that he was in the transfer portal. It didn't take him long to find a home. So let's just start with him. He announces his transfer to Syracuse. So what was your initial reaction when you heard this news?
Well, I think it's interesting in a lot of ways, Sean, because last year Syracuse had Kyle McCord, and It's one of the great quarterback transfer portal success stories of the last year. How he kind of got run out on a rail at Ohio State. Obviously, it worked out just fine for them in the end. But ends up at Syracuse of all places. Syracuse has a new head coach. You don't know how this Fran Brown, that's a great recruiter, is going to do. It's like, wait, Syracuse just got the Ohio State quarterback? That's nuts. And then he goes off and has the best passing season in school history. So after that, we go back to December. And it was a little nebulous. Would Kyle randomly get another year of eligibility? Weren't counting on it. He ends up going to the draft. So how are they going to get another quarterback? They get this Rickie Collins from LSU, who's kind of been stuck in line behind Jaden Daniels and Garrett Nussmeier, but he's a 4-star recruit at LSU. You're like, all right, well, he's probably pretty good, right? Like, you've never seen him play, but he clearly has talent. So he, much like Notre Dame was in a multi-way quarterback battle in the spring. 5 days or so before the spring game, which I'd say is important in this timeline because Syracuse's spring game was a week before Notre Dame's.
True.
Rickie's named the starter. And then apparently sometime later that week, Rickie hurt his hand, so he doesn't even play in the spring game and is going to be out till June, I guess. They say it's not serious, but you never know with stuff like this time of year. Then, like the next week, Angeli's in the portal. Fran Brown has said, hey, we need another quarterback because one of their backups went in the portal. You know, the third string guy went in the portal. Georgia State's like sometimes starting quarterback was here. You're like, all right, they're getting like a depth piece. And then that Monday or Tuesday, whatever it was, like, yeah, Steve Angeli's in Syracuse. And then you start to learn the history. I'm like, oh, he played at Don Bosco for the brother of Syracuse's quarterback coach? All right, that's not an accident, right?
Right.
Like the Campanelli family, who's all over the place in Jersey. Fran Brown's all over the place in Jersey. So then it's like, then it happened real quick. Sean. And then I think question 2, right, is like, now I think a lot of people assume, well, he's not coming here if he's not starting. And nobody said anything out loud. I think that's going to be a legit quarterback battle this summer between those two. But fascinating times here. Sean, like, go back 3-4 years and say, yeah, Syracuse has LSU's and Notre Dame's quarterbacks. And you'd be like, what world are we living in? But
that is kind of crazy when you think about it that way. And then, you know, as you said, with McCord on top of it. So, I mean, in less than a year, they've got an Ohio State quarterback. They've got a Notre Dame quarterback. They've got an LSU quarterback. I mean, I would think that, you know, from a fan standpoint, even, because I'm wondering what they think about all this. Like, is this excitement level for Orange fans?
I mean, the excitement level around Syracuse football right now is unprecedented post Donovan McNabb. That's 27 years ago now. Like, there were moments like Dino Babers had a 10-win season. There were moments at the end of Coach P. Then things got Greg Robinson era, it all fell apart. There was a very, very slow build back. But I mean, it's literally 25 years up until this last season. Like Fran Brown, a guy that nobody here had ever heard of. No, you didn't know who Fran Brown was from a hole in the wall before he got hired. He was Georgia's D-backs coach. Yeah, he's a great recruiter, but who knows anything about him? He has come in and completely changed everything. I mean, he changed it in like a week. Like his opening press conference, the way how real he sounded, Syracuse fans bought in immediately. But then he backed it up. Like they won 10 games with Ohio State's quarterback last year. It's like, what?
Right.
What just happened? This doesn't happen here. And I think because of last season and this year's schedule is nuts. Syracuse is playing 4 teams that were in the college football playoff last year. None of them in the Dome. It's a crazy schedule. I've never seen anything like it. But because of last year, until proven otherwise, Syracuse fans are basically prepared to believe anything that Fran Brown says because he backed up everything he said last year in a way that for a first-time head coach, I've never quite seen it go that way before in year one.
Because I think they won 6 games 2 years ago, right?
Yeah, I mean, they made a bowl game. You know, Dino's last couple of years, they started 6-0, but it fell apart. That was the year they played and lost to Notre Dame when they were undefeated. Quarterback gets hurt, you finish 7-5. Dino's last year, I mean, every quarterback was hurt. They made their way till 6-6, made a bowl game and lost it. But Dino got fired after game 11 because of, as we found out then, he was required to win 7 games to keep his job, and he was gone. And basically, they didn't throw a pass for the last month of the season because they didn't have a quarterback whose arm worked. It was amazing and disturbing and whatever it was. But then, like, this Fran Brown thing happens, and it turned the program on a dime. It went from just negative and is this all Syracuse can be to, holy crap, they're 10-3 and we're, realistically a player or two, as crazy as it sounds, away from maybe making the playoff or making the ACC title game. And it's not a thing we'd ever concerned ourselves with. It was not a thing that was possible before. And that's what Fran did in 1 year. I think it was amazing. Truly amazing.
Well, I mean, what's the biggest difference between he and Babers? How was he able to get it? Was it a matter of mostly having a quarterback of Kyle McCord's caliber, or does it go deeper than that?
Well, I think, Sean, we're going to find that out this year. Because no offense to Steve Angeli or Rickie Collins, like Kyle McCord was coming off a year from being Ohio State. He wasn't at Ohio State. He was Ohio State's starting quarterback and was 11-0.
Exactly.
And lost by 2 plays to Michigan, who's one of the best teams in recent memory. But as we know, you can't lose to Michigan if you're Ohio State's quarterback. Ohio State's fans hated McCord. It was beyond bizarre. I did a show with Kyle every week all season. He was the nicest guy, great to work with. And obviously he came in here, and what Fran did, because Fran, has known Kyle. I think Fran has known everyone that played football in New Jersey since they were 6. I don't know how he does it. It's an unbelievable connective tissue he has, especially in the state of Jersey. But he came in, he said out loud, we're going big game hunting and recruiting. He went big game hunting and recruiting, and he got dudes. Like, he got McCord, he got 4-star recruits in a way that Dino Babers, he was always kind of woe is me, like, oh, well, we're Syracuse, we got to do more with less. And he's not wrong, but the constant saying it out loud was wearing. Fran was like, why? We're Syracuse. It's the Northeast. And he just came in with bravado and backed it up. And in 1 year it worked. We'll see. I look at this year's schedule. This year's schedule is beyond insane, starting with Tennessee, you guys late in the season. Clemson's on the road, Miami's on the road, SMU's on the road, Georgia Tech's on the road. Syracuse has never had a schedule this hard, at least, in advance of the season. So we'll see how. I think if he goes 7-5 this year, it'll be damn near a miracle to pull it off. But it was so impressive, and he just changed the mood of Syracuse football in a way that we haven't had in a long, long time.
I mean, it kind of feels like, again, between him going into year 2 and not having Kyle McCord and that schedule that you just mentioned, Clemson, you start the season with Tennessee, obviously, Clemson, Notre Dame, and SMU, 4 playoff teams from a year ago. Does it feel like this is maybe the year where you're really going to find out a lot more about him, Fran Brown?
Well, I'd say almost in many ways, this year's an unfair judgment. Like, realistically, if they go, and I know 6-6 or 7-5, it's not what you want after 10 wins. It's certainly not like a Notre Dame standard, and we'll see how Syracuse fans react to it. But if you go 7-5 next year, that means you've beaten some of these really good teams. You can't even win 7 games without picking up like a legitimate big time win or two throughout the year. So, and then it sets up, the roster's a lot younger this year than it was last year. There was a lot of senior grad transfer portal types last year, McCord for one, but there were several others throughout the roster. Fadil Diggs on defense, Jackson Meeks at wide receiver. There were others. And then you had some veterans that he came in and met one-on-one with the entire roster. Like, that was his first thing he did. And kept LaQuinn Allen, who went drafted, kept Deronde Gadsden, who got drafted, kept Justin Barron and Marlo Wax, who both were picked up as undrafted free agents. So he kept the key members of the previous year's team together. So I think this year might be tricky. Our hope here is that he keeps talking that I always wanted a Northeast job. He's from Jersey. Like, if he keeps doing this, there's going to be knocks from the SEC and whatever. We'll see how long he stays here, but I think he's got a shot here in a year or two to set things up in a sustainable way that it just hasn't been in a long, long time.
All right. I wanted to ask you some more. We'll get to some other stuff. I did want to go back to the quarterback thing. One more thought on Angeli and Collins, because as you said, Collins was named the starter before the spring game even, and obviously that predated Angeli's arrival. So,
right.
Is this going to be, do you think, a true Angeli Collins battle once camp opens up in, August or whenever you guys open up camp?
That's my guess. We have not heard from Fran since Steve signed. Like, the big hubbub around here in the week leading up to that was the leading returning offensive player, Trevor Pena, had entered the portal. It was kind of like a last minute, extra NIL play. And Fran came on with one of our other shows here, and he made some national news by how he handled it. It was like, we love Trevor. We're not paying a slot receiver that. And he just ended up at Penn State the other day. So that was one of those things, like, that happened on Wednesday, a week and a half ago, whenever it was. The Angeli thing was less than a week later. It's like, whoa, things are moving quickly here. So I think it was kind of wild how fast things pivoted. You're like, did Angeli come in because of the money you freed up? Weird stuff you have to talk about these days.
True.
So we have not heard Fran address it yet. My guess is Fran is very much a man of his word guy. So my guess is he's not And I think it was also very interesting. Like, I was watching last Friday night. All right, are any of the other quarterbacks going to leave now? Nobody left at that point, which I found very interesting. Not even the third or the fourth string guy. I bet it's a legit two-man battle. Based on how I sense Fran handles business, my guess is the second he was bringing Angeli in, I bet I don't know this is just my guess. My guess is one of his first calls was to Rickie to tell him the deal. Like, hey, he's very much, I want you to hear it from me. Like, I bet he called Rickie. He's like, hey, we're bringing this dude in. If he signs here, you guys can go at it. I don't know that for a fact, but that's my guess. And realistically, I know Angeli had that great moment for Notre Dame in the semis with like one drive.
Right.
But he hasn't played a lot. He's played more than Rickie, but he hasn't played a lot. Rickie's barely played. I don't see any reason why you wouldn't have a real quarterback battle to find out, because to me right now, I don't think it's obvious who's better between the two.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what it looks like from this aspect is Angeli is essentially leaving one quarterback competition to jump into another one, at a new school.
Yeah,
so.
I could be wrong, Sean. My assumption is he was leaving a competition he knew he lost. I could be wrong about that, but but I also think due to the relationships, like he played for Vito Campanale at Don Bosco in New Jersey. Vito's brother Nunzio is Syracuse's quarterback coach. Like, I'm gonna guess that it went the other way, that he at least knows exactly what he's getting into. Like, and Fran is not a promise you the start. Like, McCord was different last year. Like, it was very clear he was the starter. Like, there wasn't anyone in his league like within 100 miles of here. But my guess is now maybe Angeli comes in and is the starter. Maybe he knows that. I don't know. But if that is, it's because through all their connections that they know exactly what they're getting and they know it's better than what they have. And if that's not the case, then it'll be a battle. But my guess is all parties involved. We don't know, but I bet they all know what the deal is right now.
You talk about some Jersey names, by the way, Vito and
there's a lot of Italian last names going around here.
That's right.
And this is after we had Mr. Italy Tommy DeVito here a few years ago. So we're on top of the whole thing around here in the Keys.
So there's a curious guy, as I was kind of researching Syracuse a little bit. A guy, is it Demetrius Samuel Jr.? Is that how you say his first name?
I believe it's Demetrius. Yeah, but
okay.
He's potentially going to be the next two-way guy.
Yeah.
Go figure. They just turned literally his 17th birthday, because he reclassified. His 17th birthday was like 2 weeks ago. It's crazy. And
he enrolled and he's 16 years. He did spring practice with him, right?
he enrolled at 16 years old. He was a story like Fran initially got a verbal from him. He's from Florida in the class of 2026. Then he he was a big time 4-star recruit, whatever, class of 26, verbaled way in advance. They're like, oh, that's cool. Fran's getting 4 stars. Then in June of last year, I think it was June, July, whatever, he verbaled to Florida, decommitted verbal to Florida. He's like, I've always wanted to go here, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, well, that was bound to happen. Okay. Then in the fall, he both decommitted from Florida, reclassified to the class of 2025, and recommitted to Syracuse in like an afternoon. It's like, all right, sure. I'm sure we'll still never see this guy here, but whatever. And then, not only is he here, was one of the starting cornerbacks in spring at 16 years old. And Fran was dabbling, using him at one of the wideout spots too. Now, is he Travis Hunter? Let's hold on here a second. But Fran's like, hey, I'm going to give you a shot to see if it works. And what's crazy is I think with Travis, like, that was coming from Travis. With this situation, it feels like it's coming from Fran. It's like, hey, why don't you try this out? And he's like, all right. So,
man,
yeah. And he turned 17 3 weeks ago, which made me feel comically old. So that's
yeah. I mean, and literally on the heels of Travis Hunter, obviously, going number 2 and the whole thing. Now you potentially got a situation where the Samuel guy could do the exact same thing. But it sounds like he's a little. At least right now, they consider him more of a defensive guy than a receiver.
He's defense first. I mean, he's for a 17-year-old. He's very physically mature. You don't look at him and be like, "Oh my God, this kid's going to get broken in half." I mean, he's not huge, but he looks enough the part out there. But like 10 as of today, when we're sitting there, how many months from now is that? 5 months from now, whatever it is. Yeah, 4 months from now.
God, 4 months. Yeah.
4 months from now. And it's 4 months in a day or whatever it is from the Tennessee game. Like, they're going to be down at that Mercedes-Benz crazy dome against Tennessee. And I think that, barring something strange, that kid's going to be on the field to start the game.
They've got a Boeheim on the roster.
They do.
Is it a son? Is it a grandson?
No, it's like a second cousin once removed.
Oh, interesting.
There is more than zero relation, but I don't even know if zero. I don't even know if Adam, who's him, or Jim knows the actual relation. Somebody's related to somebody who's related to somebody, but it's not a random last name. But the Boeheim sons wrapped up with Buddy.
You just figure Syracuse, when you've got a Boeheim and it's Syracuse, there's got to be some relation. So that's funny. Not zero relation, but not necessarily one that 81 is willing to claim. So,
and that if he ends up on the field, they got all sorts of problems, because he is a deep on the roster walk-on type. But if you are around here and your last name is Boeheim, you are related to Jim one way or another, whether you know it or whether you like it or not.
All right, I've got a couple more questions for you. Other than quarterback, the biggest question that they have coming out of spring is what?
Offensive line is number one. Like, I think literally as we speak right now, Sean Fran's got like 7 offensive linemen in his office. Like, Syracuse has been linked to, in the last week, like any major offensive lineman in the portal. Like, they've had visits. So we've been told, from like 5 of the top 10 linemen remaining in the portal, plus a few other guys. So that's clearly of some concern. They lost 3 of their starters from last year. One of them, a different guy that started some games, is in the portal. A different one switching positions. It is regardless of how it comes together, it's a very new group. Though it's a group that Fran has recruited heavily. And you talk about the get off the bus crowd, like they've gone from here to like off the camera up here somewhere, Sean, in their size and weight here in the last couple of years. They're 6'7", 6'8", walking around. They're just freshmen, so they're not ready yet. But that's a big concern. Unfortunately, right now, I'm extremely concerned about the kicking game. I have not of all the things that went right last year. And go figure, the one thing Syracuse has been good at for 40 years, the place kicking, was an absolute disaster fest last year. They have a new special teams coordinator this year. They brought in a kicker in the portal from Iowa, but he didn't look any great shakes in spring ball or at the spring game. So I personally am worried about that. I haven't had Fran talk about it. He mentioned offensive line. They got in a 100-tackle guy from South Dakota last week who, the top level of FCS football, which I think was a decent get. You lost all of your wide receivers. I'm less worried about that, though, because Fran brought in some legit 4-star guys last year that they couldn't get on the field because of veterans. So I think that's a situation where talent's in the building. They just have no in-game experience. But O-line is the answer, because you don't have Kyle McCord back there, which means the ball's probably not coming out in 0.25 seconds, which means you better be able to block for whoever's the quarterback for a little bit this year, especially when you're playing Tennessee game 1, just so everybody standing behind them doesn't get hurt in the first game of the season. Right.
Well, and the other thing I was going to ask you about was, like you mentioned the kicking game and the fact that they did bring in a new special teams coordinator. And it sounded like, even beyond just like kicking game specific, between block kicks and, things like that, it sounded like special teams are just a little bit of a train wreck, huh?
Last year was, go figure, in a 10-win season, that is literally the worst special teams Syracuse has had in my lifetime. And I don't think remotely close, because every week, Sean, it was unbelievable. Blocked kick, blocked punt, missed field goals. Like, it was a comical array of mistakes that got marginally better and then still had issues as the year went along. And it's one, especially at Syracuse in the Dome, it's inexcusable to have a bad kicking game. Just completely inexcusable.
That's true.
It was a mess. The coordinator last year was a guy that it was his first big time gig of any sort. I'd say clearly he was not up to the challenge. They brought in a guy that had worked at Louisville and Purdue and various places. So hopefully he's got things you won't know until the first time somebody tries to block a kick next year.
Right.
But I'd never seen anything that bad last year. And frankly, it's stunning they won 10 games without having a special teams. You talk all the amount of times I did a post-game show, I'm like, well, Syracuse did well in 2 or 3 phases today. Thank goodness that was, or Syracuse did well in 1 phase. Thank goodness Kyle McCord is on the face of this earth because they wouldn't have won the game. But a lot of times last year it was like Syracuse had Kyle McCord, you didn't. Okay, like for the first 11 games of the season last year, I went into the game certain Syracuse had the best quarterback. And then the last game of the season was against Miami. So it was like, all right, Cam Ward's coming in here. Syracuse has Kyle McCord. I'm like, let's see. And Cam was great. He threw for 350. Miami was up 21-0.
Mm-hmm.
But then McCord came back and won the game. And it was a fantastic football game. They were both great. It was just a high level football game that truly special to watch. And it was really cool to say that, like, all right, I get it. I get why Cam's. I'm not saying McCord should have been picked over Cam or anything like that. Like that was a dude, and Syracuse's dude went toe to toe with that guy, and it was a truly epic football game.
I mean, we've said this on our show a few times. Notre Dame opens the season at Miami this year, and obviously Cam Ward is gone. Really watching Miami at different points, it just really felt like so much of it was just put on Cam Ward.
Oh yeah,
and
he
there
made
wasn't
magic.
a whole lot else otherwise on that team.
Yeah, that's felt like what happened in that game. They aren't down 21-0. You're like, oh my god, what just happened?
Yeah,
but then it was like the other leaky stuff that Miami had. Their offensive line kind of fell apart as the game got going. So Cam was running for his life a little bit, and McCord just got crazy hot. He got crazy hot, was winging the ball all over the lot. Miami's defense wasn't great, and this is why I think he's got a legit shot to have a very long career in the league. Whether he's a starter or not, I don't know. But as a back, I mean, he's a really smart guy. He can get on the whiteboard, do all that stuff. He's a good guy, in the room, as they say.
Sure.
But he knew, he's like, that's the number 1 pick in the draft. I'm better. And he truly believed it, and he was that day. And it was a truly, it was one of those games that Syracuse has had plenty of great games, even in the bad years over the years. But that was one that you're like, we just watched something special. That was when the game ended. You're like, put it on the list of all-time great games Syracuse has had. That's how good it was.
I always felt like McCord got too much of the blame for, like you said, not beating Michigan at the, and just like for whatever shortcomings that they had. Will Howard was a good quarterback, but I felt like Cal McCord, too much was put on him.
I mean, they asked him to be and nothing again. I get why they did it. They asked him to be a game manager. It was his first year starting. This Ohio State is as talented year in, year out as anyone in the country. They had plenty of guys to win games with. They were, he won. I mean, it was the drive against Notre Dame, right? That won that game.
Yeah.
And then, they didn't really need him to do much. And that said, even with his, terrible season there, he was more than 3,000 yards and his 24 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. And this is Ohio State fans were. It's very much like Syracuse basketball fans and Notre Dame football fans, I guess, that wasn't good enough. And McCord, whether you should be handed, and, people are pissy. He's like, oh, he wanted the job to be handed to him. It's like, no, he went 11-1 as the starter. He wanted to know he was going to be the starter the next year. And he had 1 year of eligibility left because Ohio State blew his redshirt year by putting him in a 5th game his first year when they had told him they weren't going to do it, and then their other backup got a DUI, so he had to play a game. It's like, what's going on here? That's part of what he was petitioning for an extra year with the NCAA this year, and then ended up going to the draft instead. But yeah, great kid, works his butt off, and then he comes here, and Syracuse didn't need a game manager because they don't have Ohio State's roster. They needed him to be a 5-star dude. Fran, he kept using the term Little League Kyle. He's like, I want you to play like you're just out there running around having fun. Yeah, Kyle threw 11, 12 interceptions this year, 5 against Pittsburgh, but he went out and he let it rip. And it was really fun to watch because he was just flinging it all over the place all season. Set every Syracuse single season passing record. It was beyond a blast to watch that last year.
Well, we'll see who the starting quarterback is going to be when they roll it out there against Tennessee. Is it going to be Mr. Angeli? Is it going to be Mr. Collins? So
yeah, and then by November,
have an interesting training camp. It sounds like.
Oh my goodness! So then, who knows if the answer that day is going to be the same as by November 22nd when they're in South Bend? I would not guarantee that one bit this year if it's the same guy from game 1 to game 11.
Great point. Great point. I think there are definitely some people I think on this side who assume that it's going to be Angeli jumping in, but again, you don't bring in a 4-star guy from LSU just to sit either. So
yeah, good to have options, I guess. So,
yeah,
they always say what's the adage? If you have 2 quarterbacks, you don't have any. I'm like, okay, right. Well, I'd rather have 2 to at least find out if they won at this point. Last year they knew they had 1. This signing feels like they came out of spring not totally sure about it, so they better be sure. And whichever. Hopefully one of them's the dude, and hopefully the good part here is hopefully one of them can be the guy for multiple years. So we'll see how it goes.
Brian Higgins from ESPN Syracuse and CuseSportsTalk.com. Great stuff as always, Brian. Appreciate you. We'll talk to you later.
All right, Sean. Always great to chat.
The man, Brian Higgins, in the totally pre-recorded interview that we did earlier today. And
is that a problem?
Probably. Well, apparently so. People get worked up if we pre-record interviews. And yes, I did have the same shirt on because we recorded
it the same day. Wow. Yeah. It's amazing.
Someone acted like they made a big catch with that. Oh, Sean's got the same shirt on. Pre-recorded interview.
This is a window, especially for radio people. It's called the drive time. And last time I checked, he's a radio guy.
He is.
And
his show is actually on from 4 to 6.
Look at that.
And I said this introing the interview. The irony of today is after we recorded that interview that I just played there, we recorded another one that he was airing at the exact same time that this interview was airing. So,
I mean, it's a lot of stuff airing all at once.
I know. But I thought there was a lot of good stuff there. I don't know how much you were able to hear, but
not as much as I would like, but I plan on going back.
All right. So if you missed the interview with Brian Higgins, here's the upshot, live or recorded. The podcast will drop. The YouTube, will always be there. So you always got that. You can go back and listen. In the meantime, Vince, my question for you, it's an easy show for you today. Are you ready for rapid fire?
Let's do this. This is not my day, and so any rapid fire is a great rapid fire. So I'm fired up for today.
Yeah, not your day. Apparently, Jesse has run into the old big boss man at work, cracking deadlines. They've got some project deadline, and
that happens.
Things happening and late work and everything else. So
yeah. That happens.
Since you missed most of the Brian Higgins interview, we started the show talking with Brian from ESPN Syracuse, and we talked about where Steve Angeli stands after he transferred to Syracuse from, of course, Notre Dame here to join Fran Brown's team up there in Syracuse. I asked Higgins if Angeli and LSU transfer Rickie Collins, who was named the starter before Syracuse's spring game, if they're now in a true two-man quarterback competition.
I've not heard Fran address it yet. My guess is Fran is very much a man of his word guy. So my guess is he's not, and I think it was also very interesting. Like I was watching last Friday night. All right, are any of the other quarterbacks going to leave now? Nobody left at that point, which I found very interesting. Not even the third or the fourth string guy. I bet it's a legit two-man battle. Based on how I sense Fran handles business, my guess is the second he was bringing Angeli in, I bet I don't know this is just my guess. My guess is one of his first calls was to Rickie to tell him the deal. Like, hey, he's very much, I want you to hear it from me. Like, I bet he called Rickie. He's like, hey, we're bringing this dude in. If he signs here, you guys can go at it. I don't know that for a fact, but that's my guess. And realistically, I know Angeli had that great moment for Notre Dame in the semis with like one drive. He hasn't played a lot. He's played more than Rickie, but he hasn't played a lot. Rickie's barely played. I don't see any reason why you wouldn't have a real quarterback battle to find out, because to me right now, I don't think it's obvious who's better.
I saw the look on your face, Vince. I saw it when he said one drive.
I mean, is he wrong?
So what do you think? What do you think?
I think that's a pretty legitimate response. I mean, I think that that is the way it should go. I think that even though he named Rickie Collins as the starter, he thinks he found at the very least competition to bring him in, right? And I think you're always looking to make your football team better. So I mean, it's not like he went against his word or anything like that. But I think that's legit. They're talking about he's talking about it's a 2-man race, a 2-man battle. Okay, good. I like it. I think that's the way it should go.
I'm sure they weren't expecting someone from a program like Notre Dame, and specifically, obviously, Steve Angeli, to necessarily pop up on their radar as quickly, and like, just for the people, DK saying Bergen Catholic, not Don Bosco. That was, maybe the one slip that Brian had. He confused which high school. He didn't know the high school that the transfer from Notre Dame went to. So forgive him. He at least had the right state. They're both in New Jersey. But, look, you've got a couple of guys from big time programs coming in. And to me, it's, I guess, a little surprised that he would have named a starter going into the spring game rather than waiting until after it. But if there wasn't a true competition, which it doesn't sound like there was, like at the time, Collins was the guy. Now you've added another guy of at least similar talent, skill, overall skill sets and all that, are going to be different between the two. But you've added a guy at the very least. I think it's good for your program that you would have a competition between two guys like this who had, a pretty good amount of stars next to their name, who were both recruited by a lot of other big time college football programs. And now you've got a legit battle between these two. Find out who's the best, and the best guy, you would hope, would be the starting quarterback when they take on Tennessee to open up the season. Good luck with that.
Yeah, there's a lot of we're gonna get to it, but there's a lot of good luck with that, with their schedule. But I think this is also a way to win the locker room too, for the two guys, right? Like, there's probably some Rickie Collins fans in the locker room, right? And when he was there in the starter, they're probably excited about it. And then you bring this guy in, and if you just automatically name him the starter without an actual competition, you're going to get some resentment. I'm not saying that, we've talked about the fact that the guys want whoever's best qualified to be the starter, and I get all of that, but they want to see it too. Like, these guys have never seen Steve Angeli play outside of that one drive, and maybe they weren't paying attention to that game.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And so, you want to be able to be fair to your locker room as well. You're not just going to bring somebody in, make them a starter, and call it a day when you already named some guy a starter. Like that. It's not the way you want to run your program, and it's not the way to win the locker room, because you would be putting Steve Angeli in a very awkward position at that point. And I don't think that's fair.
They both got a little bit of experience. Angeli has a little bit more experience than Collins. But, like, at the end of the day, Collins has at least been through spring with the team up there, so there's, like, some familiarity. Like, that drive against Penn State means a heck of a lot less to anyone wearing orange and blue than it does to anyone wearing blue and gold, So,
100%.
like, that doesn't carry – really, I think that carries a lot less weight now. I doubt that the Syracuse fans are going to be chirping in about, well, Angeli at the end of the Orange, end of the first half in the Orange Bowl, and that's what's going to be the argument. I think it's going to be an interesting quarterback battle to watch. Quite honestly, up there, when they're waging it during their own fall training camp, and like, regardless of who the starter is on. In week one for Syracuse, there's a lot of football between then and November 22nd, when Syracuse comes here to Notre Dame. Yeah, November 22nd, when Syracuse comes here to Notre Dame for Notre Dame's senior day. So you could see both of those guys over the course of the season, for that matter.
Oh, I don't care who's named the starter. I think you're going to see both. I think that's fair, especially with the way how I believe the Syracuse offensive line is. I think you're going to see both guys play. So,
and that's, I don't know if you heard that, but they lost 3 starters from that offensive line, and that is, as Brian Higgins said, other than quarterback, that offensive line is their biggest question. And I think that if it becomes a concern, then that's like, because of Steve Angeli's not going to be as mobile as Rickie Collins. Just put it that way.
No, he's not going to be as mobile as a lot of guys out there. So, yeah, you're going to need an offensive line that's going to give him time. If he's ever going to have an opportunity to be as effective as he could possibly be, he's going to need some time. And so that's going to be tough.
So since we're talking about Syracuse, let's do another guess the season over/under win total.
My favorite new game. It's my favorite new game.
It's sweeping the nation is what it's doing. We're going to look at the Syracuse schedule for the upcoming season, and then we're going to guess what their FanDuel season over/under win total is. All right. So we've already mentioned the Tennessee game. They play 4 teams that went to the college football playoff, including Tennessee and Notre Dame this season. So it starts August 30th against Tennessee. Then they host UConn, which is kind of an interesting.
Well, it's very. Why is it interesting to you, sir?
Well, to me, it's interesting because UConn was an improved team.
Oh, okay.
Just like Syracuse. Why is it interesting to you, Vince?
Because I believe they really wanted Steve Angeli, from what I can gather.
Oh, I didn't even realize that.
Yes.
Okay.
And so I don't know, how close it was in the eyes of Steve Angeli and his people. But that was a school that really wanted him.
Man.
So very interesting. They play.
And if UConn would have managed to get him, would have lost us the bet with Jesse. Jesse would have been getting a lot of free food.
I know. I mean, I know there were other schools interested as well, but I know they really wanted him. So,
okay.
Hey, that's okay. Because I plan on cashing in on that this week, by the way. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, I need to do that as well. So Tennessee to open the season, then UConn, and then Colgate. And that Tennessee game, by the way, is not a home game. That's down in Atlanta is where they're playing that game. Colgate week 3, and then Syracuse goes to Clemson for their 4th game of the season. Then they host Duke. Then they go to SMU, won the ACC, of course, last year. And then Pittsburgh, home game. Pittsburgh had a nice start to last season, of course, before they collapsed over the last month. Then they're at Georgia Tech. They host North Carolina. They're at Miami, at Notre Dame, and then Boston College to close out the season. So the game is, what is the FanDuel over/under? I have not looked. Vince, I hope, has not looked.
Nope.
We refrain from actually looking. We're going to guess what we think the FanDuel Sportsbook season over/under win total is. The official listed line for the Syracuse Orange.
Oh man, I'm stuck between one or another. So I'm stuck between 5.5 and 6.5.
Okay.
To be honest with you, and I think with the addition of Steve Angeli, I'm gonna go 6.5, and I'm taking the under.
Okay. So my initial reaction was 7.5, and I'm basing this off the fact that they won 10 games last year. They went 10-3. Now, the schedule last year compared to this year, night and day different. They had a very favorable schedule.
Yes, they did.
Year. Like they played Ohio University, not Ohio State, Georgia Tech, Stanford, which was actually their first loss, Holy Cross. They beat UNLV in overtime. They beat NC State. They lost to Pittsburgh. They beat Virginia Tech in overtime. They lost to Boston College. Then they beat Cal, UConn, and Miami to close out the regular season before picking up win number 10 against Washington State in the Holiday Bowl. So my initial gut reaction was 7.5.
Okay.
Because of the fact that they won 10 games last year and how much Vegas might factor that in. But then, like, when you look at some of the results of last year, they needed, overtime a couple of times. They lost to Pittsburgh. They beat, didn't have a very difficult schedule by any stretch last year. So I'm with you, and I'm going 6.5 is the number.
All right, here we go.
All right, so I'm opening up the app. Where is Syracuse? There is Syracuse. 5.5.
I should have gone with my gut. I should have gone with my gut instinct. Tommy, you were right. I should have gone 5.5. Dang it.
5.5. Yep.
I hate to say it, but I would, if it's 5.5, I would even take the under.
I don't know. I'd go over on 5.5.
Okay.
That's That's
We
not
should
an easy schedule by any
We
stretch.
should. I think we need to record these because we're going. We'd have to go into December to find out who's right on a lot of these.
That's true.
But I don't know. Might be fun. But
That's true.
I just think there's a lot of potential for losses on that schedule, and you know how it goes when you pick up a loss or two. Sometimes those can snowball. And I don't know, man. I just feel like the snowball effect could be there.
Because even, Boston College is not going to be an easy game,
Right?
to end the season.
Especially after they get, horsewhipped by Notre Dame.
But, I mean, they closed the season with Georgia Tech, North Carolina. Who knows what North Carolina is going to be? We're going to talk about Bill Belichick in a little bit. Miami, Notre Dame, both on the road, Boston College. After opening with Tennessee and Clemson, 2 of their first 4 games. That's a hard open and a hard close right there.
It is. Like I said, some things can snowball, and that they might be able to rebound a little bit after that start, but that ending is tough. This ending's tough.
Yeah. I agree with Josh. 6 wins is possible. If I'm going definite, I don't even know what the definite 5. There's really Colgate is supposed to be the only gimme, but again, they lost to Syracuse last year. So I don't know. All right, it's going to be challenging for them. We won't have to deal with it. We'll see Syracuse in November.
No, we won't. We'll talk about it, though, in November.
Yep. In the meantime, Dane Brugler from The Athletic, of course, puts out his annual pre-draft guide known as The Beast. In this year's version, Xavier Watts was the only Notre Dame player who ranked in the top 4 of any position group that Brugler put out. What Notre Dame players do you give the best chance to be in the top 4 in their position group rankings a year from now for the 2026 draft?
This is tough. Obviously Jeremiah Love would be one.
My lock?
Yeah, that's a lock. Yeah, Jeremiah Love is going to be one. I mean, top 4. Come on now. So I think he's going to be one. I think Christian Gray has a chance, but probably not.
I'm kind of in the same boat. Like, obviously, if he has a big year,
right,
we could end up there. I think it's probably more realistic that he's like a top 10-ish type guy than a top 4, probably.
Charles Jagusaw, I think, has an opportunity to be in that conversation with the pronunciation, because I've been working on it. I think he has an opportunity to be in that conversation. I think Malachi Fields has an opportunity to be in that conversation, just based on that.
We just had the
draft. Yeah, I mean,
someone's mocking him to go number 8 overall, which we both feel like is a stretch, but
we do.
Number 1 overall in terms of wide receivers, number 8 overall in the draft, top wide receiver.
Yeah,
going. But I mean, if he comes even close to that, he should be in the top 4. So.
Do they do specialists?
I don't think so. I mean, they might do kickers. I don't know.
Because I was thinking there's a chance that Rendell could be as a punter.
True.
There's a chance. You know what I mean? Like, just going through the roster, there's a chance. So, now we're just doing draft eligible for next year, right?
Right. And that's what I was going to say. KVA is not eligible for next year.
Misunderstood the question.
We're doing next year's draft, the 2026 draft. Yeah, and so Leonard Moore is not eligible. Yeah, like CJ Carr is not eligible.
KVA is not eligible. Yeah.
You got to be draft eligible a year from now.
Right.
I'm kind of along the lines of what you're thinking. Like, if I'm going confidence, my number 1 confidence would be Jeremiah Love.
Yep.
Charles Jagusaw, I almost said it wrong, would be my number 2. Then Malachi Fields. I've got Drake Bowen in there.
Yeah.
Off-ball linebacker. Like, I mean, it's kind of sneaky that he is draft eligible a year from now because he's going into his junior season. And again, we're talking top 4 at your position group, not overall. So Bowen would be my next guy. And then I've got a Don Schuler and Boubacar Traore as my next 2 possibilities. And I mean, Schuler right now is not in that, in that range.
He needs to come out of the shadow of Xavier Watts.
But if he shows the kind of growth that he made from freshman year to last year, if he does the, like the same, kind of growth this year to, 2024 to 2025, I think he's got a chance to be in that conversation for safeties. And like you said, he's going to be out of Xavier Watts' shadow as well. There's just going to be a ton of opportunities for him back there.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Some people are saying Price. I just don't think he's going to be in the top 4 entire college football. I don't think that's a bit of a stretch.
Again, I think he could be a top 10.
Yeah, for sure.
Potentially, because they're going to be splitting the load. And, just look at what happened with Judkins and Henderson at Ohio State. So I think he's got a chance to be like a top 10-ish type guy, maybe even top 8. But I think top 4, maybe a little bit tougher.
Yeah, I don't like people in the chat are talking about anybody, any position group has a chance to have 2 guys on it. I just don't know that I see that being possible. Like that's tough. That's tough.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the only position group I would give them a chance to have 2 in the top 4 would be running back, Love and Price.
That would be I'm
not saying it's impossible that Price
Right.
could end up in the top 4. I think it's a little bit.
If anything, they'll take votes away from each other. You know what I mean? As opposed to the other way around.
Yeah.
And so I just don't see a second guy popping in. So that's tough.
Yeah. And I mean, Traore, if he comes back from injury and is able to pick up where he left off last season, then every reason to believe he could be in that conversation. Somebody said Botelho, I think, and I
don't think there's enough there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think he's got a chance to be a really good,
sure.
really good, productive college defensive end this year, and a chance to have a pro career. But I like in terms of overall edge rushers, I don't know if I'd put him in that top 4 conversation.
Yeah.
Andrew Gilmore says, "What about Emil Wagner?"
I just don't think he's going to be the steady Eddie. He's going to get drafted. I just don't think he's going to be in the top 4 tackles in college football. I just don't see that being the case. And somebody mentioned Billy Shroud. I think Billy Shroud's really, really good. If we're going to parse out tackle, guard, center, does he have a chance to be a top 4 guard? It's possible. I don't think he's going to be top 4 offensive line. So it just depends on how we're classifying. Yeah.
Andrew is saying you can't move Wagner inside in the NFL. I think that's what he's saying, because Martin was moved inside. I just don't see Wagner being big enough to move inside in the NFL, like to play guard. I think he needs a little more girth behind him to do that, personally.
Yeah, he's not even 300 pounds.
Yeah.
I don't see, and that's always been his issue. He can't keep on big weight, so he's going to end up being a tackle. I don't think he's going to be moved inside. I don't see that being the case. No.
Yeah. Gilmore, Andrew follows that up with center. I mean, Liam Eichenberg has played some center for the Dolphins in his time in the NFL. I think that was 2 years ago. I'm not sure if he was even still with the team last year, if he was hurt or what happened to him. I remember looking for him this past season. But I mean, I'm sure if you're athletic enough and you're able to figure it all out, he could, but making that transition, I don't think is necessarily, just a given, just because a guy can't play. I mean, like, he's definitely athletic enough to be a good, a really good college tackle. But, like, in terms of that next step, the weight, I think, is just a really big issue for him, because he's had such a hard time just getting to 300 pounds as it is, to play in college.
Right. Agreed.
So Watts, of course, was one of a handful of Notre Dame guys to get drafted last weekend. What's one thing you remember about Xavier Watts from his time at Notre Dame?
Well, from his playing time, it is the USC interception with him mocking the bench as he goes by. Like that will always stick in my brain because it's something that if I had any kind of talent, I would have loved to do. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
I feel like he was speaking for the fans. Like that was awesome. You know what I mean? It was just the absolute nail in the coffin to that game. It was, ballsy. It was everything that you would want. Like that is the one play that I will always remember from Xavier Watts. No doubt about it.
Yeah. And I would just, I would even take it a level beyond that. I would just say USC and take your pick which USC game, because remember the year before when he picked off Caleb Williams twice and then finished off that game with a scoop and score on the fumble. Like he literally the last 2 years made a career out of causing turnovers and scoring touchdowns against USC. So, and then the 100-yard pick six, obviously. And I think you're right. Like the stare down going down the sideline was
just fantastic.
Was obviously the best part of it. Yeah. So Xavier Watts, USC is going to come to mind when I think of Xavier Watts 10 years down the line.
And, part of the memory of Xavier Watts is also going to be, moving all over the place, trying to figure out what position he was going to be.
The journey to get there. That's right.
Because that way he went on quite a journey to become who he became at Notre Dame. You know what I mean? And, happy that he was able to find his spot at safety, but the dude's talented. He could have been successful at any position that they were trying him out at, but obviously he settled in at safety. But I'm just going to remember that kind of back and forth, that ping pong ball game of him just moving all over the place, mid-season at times, you know what I mean? Remember they moved him to wide receiver because it was injuries and he moved all over the place.
All right, I got a few others we're going to do, guys who got drafted. How about Benjamin Morrison? The thing you'll most remember about Benjamin Morrison from his time at Notre Dame.
It's going to be his freshman year, coming in as a true freshman, not necessarily, a specific play per se. And I'm sure you'll come up with a play that I'll be like, yep, now that's the one. But it's just the fact that like he came in as a true freshman and became a freshman All-American. Tommy, you're right. The Clemson pick six is,
and that's mine. The 96-yard pick six. But he also, remember, he had 2 interceptions.
Right.
That game.
I mean, he was just so good as a true freshman.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just so stinking good. And it's a shame that he got injured this year. Now we got to be introduced to another freshman in Leonard Moore because of that. But it's a shame he got injured because he is that good. He is so good. And it's one of those deals where during that season, you think to yourself, man, we got 3 years of this and that's it. So you better enjoy it while you got it. And I hope Notre Dame fans did that.
Yeah. I mean, it honestly feels like he's been here longer than he has, just because of the fact that he came in and was so significant as a freshman that year. And it was really, I think, some of the first signs of what this secondary was shaping up to be, like what it's turned into in the really over these last 3 seasons under Mike Mickens, and like look at what, Leonard Moore, virtually the same story last year, and look at what he's already become this year. So,
yeah, I mean, and Benjamin Morrison, so obviously the pick against Clemson, yes, but what he ended up doing to the Ohio State receivers as well when he had that opportunity, that was real. You know what I mean? He made those guys completely inconsequential when they were lined up against Benjamin Morrison. So that I will also remember that, just all the hype that, they were getting. And then Benjamin Morrison was like, yeah, you got nothing when you're lining up against me. So,
right. Going back to the running back conversation in the top 4 position group rankings next year in terms of the draft, Ballpeen says if Quinshawn and Travion can go top 4 RBs, he thinks Price can go top 4 with Love at number 1. I mean, like I said, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. Yeah. I just think it's going to be, I think it's tough to have 2 guys from the same school in that conversation. But I mean, we'll see. If they both end up, around 1,000 yards, and especially if Notre Dame goes deep into the playoffs again, I think that they will have a legitimate shot to be considered.
Yeah.
How about Riley Leonard? Mine is Mine is one that you were there in person for, the flip in the Sugar Bowl. Like that says, I think, everything that you need to know about Riley Leonard, about what he was willing to do, putting his body on the line to help secure the victory there in what at the time was Notre Dame's biggest win in 3 decades, to beat the Georgia Bulldogs in that game in the Sugar Bowl.
I mean, that's the one we always talked about, right? We talked about the fact, or I would always say, like, the IU game is a big game, but it doesn't count. It's at the stadium. It's not the big bowl game that you need to get off your back, and we kind of had that argument and that debate.
Yes, we did.
But to your point, I mean, that Georgia game, obviously down in New Orleans with everything that was on the line, as well as everything that happened the night before. And I mean, just all of it, right? I mean, that whole playoff run epitomizes who Riley Leonard was.
Yep.
There were a lot of guys made plays. Don't get me wrong. It is a team game. It's what I love about football. But you're right. That flip just to make sure that they were going to get that first down and get that victory and everything that you needed it to be, it was. He just was the consummate leader of that team and did it on the field. He did it off the field. I mean, he did it in the press conference. Like, Riley Leonard's always going to be remembered. But for on the field, that was pretty freaking awesome, man.
That was it. That was it. Awesome. That's right. And look, you're not going to beat that caliber of team in spite of your quarterback. Like, your quarterback has to be a big part of it. And remember, that was part of that drive at the end of the game where they chewed up, what was it, like 6.5, 7 minutes or something like that. And, where the punt and the shifting and the offsides and all that stuff came as well. But that was really kind of the seal the deal type thing. They needed that first down and they got it, out of Riley Leonard. And I think I think a lot of people are going to remember him for that. Like TD4ND says, Riley is a special dude. And,
you'd love to have him for more than a year, as Tommy said. No doubt about it. He's a guy that it's easy to root for. He just, with his high school career, he wasn't going to Notre Dame out of high school. You know what I mean? That's just not reality. But I'm glad he finished at Notre Dame. That's for darn sure.
All right. Last one is Jack Kaiser.
Jack Kaiser, I don't know that I have a specific moment on the field. It's just, all I ever think about with Jack Kaiser is Royal Center, Indiana. You know what I mean? Like, one stoplight, like the whole, that's all I can think about. It's just that,
Yeah, like, to me, it's not a moment as much as it's kind of like a career achievement award, because the guy was here for 6 years and literally ends up playing more games than anyone at Notre Dame.
Yeah.
And, it's like he went from this, there was kind of, because of, it was a small school and, he played both sides of the ball. He played quarterback, he played defensive back and all this different stuff. And like, there was all this kind of untapped potential, especially moving in, to like big time college football and playing linebacker for Notre Dame. And it's like, was it going to happen? It seemed like there were times when, it was going to, and it really, it took all 6 years, but at the end of the day, the guy's going to the NFL now, so like, great guy, great career. And, again, just such a huge part of a team that played for a national championship just a few months ago.
Sean, he's the all-time winningest defensive player in Notre Dame history. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
I believe that's accurate anyway, and I'm going to say it anyway since he started for like 6 years. But, does it mean that Jack Kaiser was the best quarterback that's ever played? I mean, best linebacker that's ever played at Notre Dame? I don't think it does. But he racked up a lot of wins out there at middle linebacker, and he always had a nose for the football.
Yep.
And he was fun to watch, man. Like, he again, similar to Riley Leonard, consummate leader, was never shaken, knew where everybody was supposed to be every single play, was, super smart in the classroom as well. So, I mean, he checked all the boxes, man. Like, he's the type of guy that when you draft him, as the Jacksonville Jaguars did, you just take a deep breath, man. You're just like, okay, like, we don't have to worry about anything with this kid. You know what I mean? Like, you worry about the production or whatever, football wise, fine, but you're not going to have to worry about anything in the locker room. You're not going to have to worry about him going out and partying. It's just, you don't worry about anything with this
Uh-huh.
guy. He's just going to be, I saw an interview with him after he got drafted. He's like, I'm super excited because all I have to do is learn the playbook. Like, all I have to do is be a football player. He's like, normally I'm, taking tests and doing, homework and doing all these different things. All I have to do is worry about football. Can you imagine all his energy focused on football? Like, he's just a guy you don't have to worry about.
It just kind of sunk in to me as well when you said that about him as the all-time winningest defensive player. Like, no one thinks about it like that. The only position we talk about that is the quarterback.
Right.
Everyone wants to trumpet the quarterback. It's because, he's the all-time winningest quarterback in Notre Dame history. But what about the other side of the ball? What about like when people talk about Jack Kaiser, I think we need to make that a thing from now on.
I agree.
When we talk about Jack Kaiser, Ian Book is the all-time winningest quarterback at Notre Dame, but Jack Kaiser is the all-time winningest defensive player at Notre Dame.
Because who wouldn't be the all-time winningest quarterback in Notre Dame history? Ian Book, if he didn't have a defense, because the defense won a hell of a lot of those games. And
yes,
so I think you got to give props. Because look, here's the thing about a middle linebacker too, because it's obviously the quarterback of the defense. I think we can all agree on that. And you're not just learning your playbook, which is obviously something important. You're literally trying to predict what the other team is going to do. Now, there is some element to that at quarterback, but you're still dictating things as the offense versus when you're the defense, you're trying to, look for keys and look for certain things about what the offense is going to do and then executing that. It is a very, very tough, position to prepare for. And
I concur.
I can't imagine Jack Kaiser with nothing else to do except prepare for a football game. Like, he is going to be ready to roll.
This was not shade at Ian Book. This is not shade. Like, maybe Vince was throwing shade. I wasn't throwing shade at Ian Book. I'm just saying it's only the quarterback who's known for that kind of thing, for that specific distinction. Nobody else on the team who played with Ian Book is known as the all-time winningest left tackle or the all-time winningest offensive lineman or the all-time winningest running back. It's only the quarterback. That's all I'm saying.
It's a little shade on my end.
Yeah, Vince doesn't mind throwing shade.
I'll admit it, but the conversation still bodes, time because of exactly what you just said. And that's why I brought it up. Was I throwing a little shade? Yes, I was. But at the same time, it needs to be brought up.
It's good to know. Andrew was sticking that dagger directly in your heart. So
I'm saying that Ian Book doesn't win all those games without a national championship level defense is what I was saying. Are we really going to sit back and say that, the offense is what got Notre Dame to the playoff every other year that they went? Come on now. Let's just be realistic. It was the defense that got them there.
I might disagree with that a little bit. Like, it's not like they were riding that defense. It's not like the defenses that they had were so elite that that's more like 2012, I think, than either 18 or 21. Like, don't you think? Like, they were good defenses.
They're really good defenses.
I don't think they were as good as this year's defense, though.
Fair. That's fair. That's fine.
Okay. All right. Andrew, very ardent Ian Book guy. He did finish top 10 in the Heisman in 2020.
Throwing 16 touchdowns. That's because of the helmet that he wore, not anything that he did on the field.
Okay, let's get off this. Let's not start bashing more players now.
Come on now. That was ridiculous. And he went in the 4th round, and he's still in the NFL and has Super Bowl rings.
Now that...
I'm just saying, that's what people
you're part of the roster. Okay, but we don't need social media blasts about Ian Book in the Super Bowl. Like, talk to me when he actually plays in the Super Bowl.
Or suits up.
Yeah. I think he might have for this one. He might have. Because they changed the rule about, like the amount of quarterbacks you could suit up and all that kind of stuff. But I can't say for sure. I don't remember scanning the sidelines looking for him. So, all right. NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell says he's considering shortening the first round of the draft. He's considering the idea of giving teams 7 minutes to make their picks rather than the current 10 minutes that you get per pick. But here is the caveat, or the little twist on this whole thing. You get 7 minutes, but a team could get a 2-minute extension once during the draft. So like you're getting up against the clock, the 7 minutes is winding down. Maybe you're trying to work a deal or something. You can say, I want my 2-minute extension. You could do that once, but they can't use the extension again once you've used it. What do you think of this idea? You buy or sell it?
I actually buy it. Number one, it'll speed things up, which I'm all for, and you get one opportunity to go an extra 2 minutes. Roll it. Let's go. I think I think I'm all for speeding up that first round, because that is a struggle to have 10 minutes for 32 teams. Like that's a struggle for me. So 7 minutes, that's going to cut that thing down significantly. And if you're really having it, because like, look, you pretty much know who you're going to take in the first round. Like maybe somebody takes the guy that you had circled. You know who the second guy is. Okay.
I mean, it's the first round. Like you should have a pretty good chart ready to go.
I almost feel like it should be reversed. Like you should have like 5 minutes in the first round and get more minutes in the 6th and 7th, because you're really kind of grasping at straws at that point. I don't know.
I like what Andrew's saying. Just go on auto pick like fantasy football.
Yeah, right.
That's the best choice.
Well, then Shador would have been taken a lot earlier, but
Yeah, I guess that's true. Right. That's true, because like, especially if you were using Mel Kiper's rankings.
I mean,
right?
how often was he up there for like best available? Like he just lived in that slot for like 2 days.
And look, part of the problem is this is a TV show as well.
Absolutely.
So like watching throughout the weekend, I don't know how many times they would conveniently take a commercial break right before the Dallas Cowboys would make a pick, because you're taking your break. It's like your Ryan Seacrest moment. We'll make the Cowboys pick after the break. So yeah, it's like the whole thing is a TV show. I think because of the breaks that they've got to get in anyway, and the fact that like how many times did you sit there and on the screen it says pick is in, and then they keep talking about something else and you're waiting for them to come up. It's like, okay, if the pick is in, then actually let's hear what the pick is. We don't need more talking, about everything else. So I'm all for it. I say shorten it. Ryan says double it. He wants 15 minutes instead of just 10. I'm sorry. That first night is brutal when you're just waiting for 32 teams to make their picks. Get it on.
Yeah.
Get it over with.
The only reason the only reason it's that long is because they got to interview the guy. They've got to interview the parents.
That's
They've
true.
Got to, it's like
there is a bit more of that. That's true.
Which I get it. You're like you said, it's a TV show. I'm all for the 7. Let's roll with 7. Let's go.
Okay, so Bill Belichick, he's got a new book out, and he did an interview on CBS Sunday Morning to promote the book this weekend. Here's a little snippet. You may have heard some snippets of this. It's been going around.
Oh, I saw
the other change for Belichick is 24-year-old Jordan Hudson, his creative muse, as he writes in his book.
Make sure that's the...
Jordan was a constant presence during our interview.
You have Jordan right over there. Everybody in the world seems to be following this relationship. They've got an opinion about your private life. It's got nothing to do with them, but they're invested in it. How do you deal with that?
Never been too worried about what everybody else thinks. Just try to do what I feel like is best for me and what's right.
How did you guys meet?
Not talking about this.
No?
No.
It's a topic neither one of them is comfortable commenting on, though Hudson has recently posted about it on Instagram.
You joined InstaFace, as you put it. I love that. There's some great pictures of you and Jordan, where you're a fisherman and she's a mermaid. It's charming. It's a different side of you. What's the reaction been like?
What's it been like?
To have these different sort of photos. There's another one where you're doing, I know you're not into meditation or yoga or Pilates. You're balancing Jordan on your feet, and she's doing kind of the Titanic pose.
Yeah, so I'm on some of those social media platforms, but I honestly don't follow them.
All right, so there it is, the scintillating Bill Belichick interview, and you heard his lady friend Jordan Hudson chiming in there, and it got a little awkward to watch.
A little awkward.
Scale of 1 to total insanity. How crazy was the Belichick interview?
Sean, it started out great. Like he was the most
he's like talking football and
most vocal he's been, like the most conversational I think he's really ever been in an interview. Like it was great. I was like, this is really interesting. My wife was watching it because we watched it live on Sunday morning. And and it was a little odd that he was wearing like his Navy sweatshirt from like 1872 or whatever it was. Like that was a little odd. But then when they started talking about the relationship, it was like old Bill Belichick came back, and it was like one-word answers, and it was like all of a sudden he didn't understand English, basically, and he had no idea how to answer anything, and it just got weird. It got really, really weird. And that is not an out-of-bounds question, by the way.
No, and it's not only not an out-of-bounds question. Like if your girlfriend, who is obviously so involved in everything that you're doing, because she's on the payroll at North Carolina, apparently, and she's essentially operating as his like his stage mom. I don't know what else to call it in this situation. Yeah. But you're promoting a book, and like again, InstaFace, Instagram, whatever. Like he has notoriously been a guy who has not paid any attention to any of that kind of stuff. So, like, did you not anticipate that any of these kind of questions that were going to come up in what's a total fluff interview? Because it's not even for CBS Sports. It's for CBS Sunday Morning. You're promoting a book. Like you didn't anticipate any of these kind of questions were going to come up.
I mean,
because he seems completely stumped by him as well.
It's a 50-year age difference. People are going to be interested in that. Like, because it's just not the norm. And I don't understand why they've got such a fence around that information and that relationship when they're putting out these ridiculous, by the way. Did you see the pictures that they were referring to on Instagram and stuff?
Yes.
Like, he's took the time to pose for those ridiculous pictures, knew that they were going on social media.
Well,
like,
and
he didn't ask
both of them are in the photo. So it's not even like they're taking selfies. Someone else is professionally taking the
It was a photo shoot. That's what that was. It was a photo shoot that you agreed to because you're 70 plus and she's 20 plus and she asks you to do it. So you do it. I don't have a problem with that, but don't pretend like you don't know that people want to see it and that social media is a buzz about it, because I guarantee she's talking to you about it. Like you know what it sounded like to me, what it reminded me of? It reminded me of when baseball was on Capitol Hill and all of a sudden Sammy Sosa didn't know how to speak English.
Right.
That's what it reminded me of.
Right.
Like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like,
right.
Come on, Bill.
And Mark McGuire, I'm not here to talk about the past. I'm here to talk about the future.
It was so awkward. Like, come on, man. Like, it would have been less of a deal if you just answered the question.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes.
And apparently Wayne is new to the show. He says, is the Notre Dame world so slow? You're talking about this. We did just spend over an hour talking about Notre Dame football with some Syracuse mixed in with the Angeli, twist on it. But Wayne, if you're new to the show, this is a segment called Rapid Fire. And again, the first, I don't know how many, we spent over a half an hour, the first half hour of Rapid Fire talking about Notre Dame stuff. And what we typically do is we transition over the course of a rapid fire segment into other broader sports topics.
Because it's sports talk.
This would, because it's IB Nation sports talk. But welcome to the show. If you're new to the show.
This is topical, Wayne. It's topical. Who wouldn't want to talk about Bill Belichick and
on a totally free show for everyone to listen to?
Yeah, I know, right? Exactly.
The interviewer, this is the one. The interviewer did bring up no mention of Robert Kraft in the book. And Belichick, again, I wish I had the audio for that, but
that was awkward.
Belichick again acted. That was like the first time it really got awkward, I think. He, you're surprised that you wrote this book about your career with the New England Patriots and the owner of the team was Robert Kraft, and someone's going to ask about the fact that you didn't mention him. Now, personally, I don't have a problem with him not mentioning Robert Kraft, because I don't know if you saw any of that Patriots documentary that was, how shall I say it? It was essentially, it was very pro Robert Kraft, where Robert Kraft wants badly to be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And so they made this documentary that was, about the Patriots, that was more or less focused on him. And he kind of, the tone of the documentary and, some specific points where they essentially, take shots at Bill Belichick, in this documentary that is essentially a fluff piece for Robert Kraft to try to get into the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and it hasn't worked yet. So if Robert Kraft is going to do that, do you really think that Bill Belichick is going to have anything nice to say about Robert Kraft in return? And there was disagreement as well about, Belichick's like, well, we parted on mutual terms. And the guy was like, well, Robert Kraft said he fired you, so it's like they can't even agree on it. But again, did you not think that was going to come up at any point in your book tour about your time with the New England Patriots?
Because, Robert Kraft is a very active owner. You know what I mean? He's not like all owners. Not all owners are active. He's a super active owner, right? I think we can all agree on that. And I actually, outside of maybe the way he's going about it, I think Robert Kraft probably has a pretty good argument to be in the Hall of Fame. I mean, with what he was able to do with the Patriots organization and where he brought it to as the owner. You know what I mean? And I think if he's just patient, it'll probably happen. But, the divorce of Bill Belichick and Robert Kraft and all of those different things. And Bill could have handled that completely differently. Like, this is a book about me and football and
right. That's really all he had to say. This is my book.
Yeah.
He's
making it more of a story than it needs to be.
Yeah.
Again.
And again, with his Jordan Hudson sitting off to the side, you would have thought that, again, considering his background, considering what this book is about, considering the whole thing, like, you would have thought that they would have gone over some points about this is probably going to come up. This is probably how you should address it. But he stumbled on literally what should have been layups in this interview. If you're North Carolina, how you feeling about Belichick as your head coach right now?
Oh, man. I mean, I just don't know how I felt when he was hired in the first place, to be perfectly honest with you. And, it just didn't feel like a great fit with Bill and college in general. And I just don't know that it's gotten any better since then. So now winning cures all, obviously. And we'll see if the Patriot way ends up being the Tar Heel way and they end up winning a bunch of games. I just don't see that being the case.
I don't either.
And so I think it's only going to get worse as they move forward. I think people are going to turn on Bill Belichick real quick, and he is not going to ingratiate himself talking about the way speaking the way he speaks in press conferences after tough games. Like, that's not going to ingratiate himself with the.
Because, that's kind of what he tried to slip into over the course of this interview, which, again, was a total fluff piece. All they were, stuff that you should have been able to give a couple of, even if it was, and he gave a couple 1 or 2 word answers as well. But
he did. But he just, it wasn't normal Bill Belichick 1-word answers in this interview, though. It was like weird, confused old man Bill Belichick. It wasn't the normal, we're on to Cincinnati, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It wasn't that. It was just, I don't know.
Well,
it's like he was unprepared for the interview. How about that?
Exactly. And again, football stuff aside, as it relates to North Carolina, he's wearing a Navy sweatshirt. And I realize his dad was a coach at Navy, and he used to go to practice with his dad at Navy, and he, used to be the ball boy for Roger Staubach and all that stuff at Navy. I get that. That's cool. And it's cool. It's cool to wear the Navy sweatshirt, the weathered, hole in the Navy sweatshirt when you're the head coach of the New England Patriots.
Right.
But now you're the head coach at North Carolina. And so again, it's a total whiff. You're going on national TV and you're not even going to wear something that said, powder blue, North Carolina, a little jump man logo.
Right.
Like,
Right.
You're the head coach at North Carolina. It was an easy promotional opportunity that he completely whiffed on because he's wearing the Navy sweatshirt. I know it's, might seem simple, but to me, it's like too simple. Like,
Right. Exactly.
what are you doing?
It just, and she had a Navy thing on too. And I don't know. It's just a whole like weird saga to me. Look, I love the Navy. I love Top Gun.
I'm not
I love all that
anti-Navy.
stuff.
I'm not saying anything like that.
It's just a weird, like, I just didn't want anybody to like go down that road. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like, it's just a weird representation. Like, he should be decked out from head to toe in Jumpman, North Carolina gear.
Exactly.
For that interview.
Exactly.
Period.
But it wasn't a radio interview. It wasn't a podcast interview. You were on
bizarre.
national TV.
It's bizarre. And it's
Bill Belichick's got a book. So
yeah, that, from what I'm seeing on social media, he didn't even want to write in the first place. Like, it just, the whole thing is just
the question is, how much did he actually write?
Fair.
How much was Belichick, sitting there with the ghostwriter? And it's like, well, back in 2003.
Right. Can only imagine how awesome he was to work with.
Yeah. All right. So that's it.
Man.
That's all we've got for tonight. I feel like we went pretty long in rapid fire.
Almost an hour for rapid fire alone.
We did.
Hey, it's all good.
So I hope that makes up for the fact that everyone was so disappointed. The fact that we have a pre-recorded interview to start the show off tonight. We had a fully live, almost hour-long rapid fire. We appreciate everybody who hung out tonight.
Hey.
Wayne, that includes you.
Wayne, thanks
You're
for hanging
here.
Appreciate you. And we'll be back tomorrow, Sean. We'll be back and ready for more.
We will. Vince will be here. Jesse might be back later in the week. I don't know exactly, but we do appreciate
Thursday.
you as always. Hit the like button before you leave, and we'll talk to you later on Nice DK.
I like that.
That's a great follow-up. His reprise or pre-written.
I appreciate that.
Live is always good when we can. We try,
Yes.
but again, can't control when a guest is available.
This is true.
If the guest is not available in the prescribed time period, we have to make the best of it. And most of the time,
we even
they're not
tried doubling. We even tried doubling the amount we pay them, and we still had to do the recorded version. So
true.
It is what it is.
All right, hit the like button. We'll talk to you tomorrow on IB Nation Sports Talk.